Now this is the house where Ulysses Grant died in here. Who this tape is about here. This is in New York, up near Saratoga Springs. See.
Yeah, they finally...
the original Drexel was a very good person in his own day, a very good benefactor.
The Drexel house here.
I was...
Overlook has appeared in 1885, and you're welcome to go there after the tour. I'll show you the...
Holy cow, boy, that's pretty.
U.S. Grant had to be brought across in this contraption called the bath wagon, because by then he could no longer walk.
Oh my gosh.
Here,
Have you ever been...
Oh, he's showing you could even come up here and have steak for breakfast. The white of Saratoga used to come up here all the time because we had our own railroad. Started out at Saratoga Springs, and in the old times it looked like this.
Saratoga Springs.
The world tour with his wife after his presidency, and when he came back, he sunk his entire life savings into this firm. We have an old marker here in the cabinet on Wall Street. It was started by his son Buck, Ulysses S. Grant Jr., and Ferdinand Ward.
That's Buck
but
there.
Unfortunately, Ward was a crook and then off with the money. That left the Grant family destitute until this magazine, The Century Illustrated, came forth with $2,000.
The cottage where Grant wrote his memoirs.
Mark Twain heard about that. He was outraged.
And died.
He says, "Generally, you're worth a lot more money than that. If you write your entire memoirs, I'll get you a lot more money for your family." So Grant continued to write, and eventually he finished these 2 volumes of the personal memoirs of... It was 104 degrees inside the personal railroad car for William H. Vanderbilt that brought the Grant...
The Drexel cabin where Grant wrote his memoirs and died.
1885, and this picture was taken just 3 days later on the front porch.
Ulysses S. Grant III there.
Is he an officer in the military or what?
No, he stayed on the runners because we had the original runners of 1885. Now this room is called the sick room because the general had a great fear of choking off and dying, and therefore he would never ever lie down. He would sit in this chair with his feet propped up in the other, sometimes writing late into the night.
Hey, I just don't mean to interrupt you. The reason I'm taping you is my landlady loves...
About the lighting system, this was the Thomas Edison incandescent lighting system for hotels. Ran the power down to 10 o'clock at night. When the dynamo shut down, he would light his oil lamp and continue to write by lamplight.
This is where he made the memoirs right in here?
Yeah.
Right there.
And we have a photograph here, taken in 1890. You look up and things are almost the same.
Boy, this is really...
As the original stuff. Never left.
All the original stuff.
Was it... Man, oh man. So that's where he sat there and wrote those memoirs.
Yeah, and that's the original handwriting of U.S. Grant. We have a small note over there in the case next to the window.
Some nightshirts there.
His top hat.
Right.
Top hat.
Used to ring for his service.
That's... I've been down to Vicksburg.
That was a pile of coal in the middle of the McGregor Railroad tracks.
Grant's last view out this window.
That's what gave him in. So by the time he arrived back here, he was so exhausted, they had to call for this bed from the Hotel Balmoral. This is the bed in which
there's the original artifact.
That bed there. Oh my God.
That's the bed. Grant died in that bed, and the clock was stopped at 8:08.
Bastard. Okay. These things aren't all they cranked out to be.
The bed he died on, right there.
That thing about Farragut, I believe he was up there, but he may not have been there for Vicksburg. This
later on, it opened up the
okay.
The bed here Grant died on.
Okay.
The Vicksburg campaign was David Porter.
Was Porter? Isn't that amazing?
Now he had to figure out George here at U.S. Grant. This chair would be brought right outside that door. He'd be seated on our stoop.
And here are some of the original...
They stayed in his cottage for 12 days. They brought up an ice coffin to keep the body intact, and after he was embalmed, they had to move the dining room table back to make room for this, The Gates of Heaven, by Mr. and Mrs. Leland Stanford of the Central Pacific Railroad and Stanford University. These were dried flowers in 1885. They've been that way ever since.
And where exactly did the body lay?
The body was embalmed on the dining room table, and then later on they had a gigantic catafalque right here in front of the fireplace.
Was anybody allowed to attend it or rob this place, huh?
Yeah.
Here it is.
Now we do have a fund, so if you know of any rich folks who don't know what to do with their money, you just send them our way.
I'll tell you.
These are the flowers.
They won't listen to me. They'll do something since.
Yeah.
They've been in here ever since. Boy, oh boy. And the body laid in state. Let me get one more of this. body laid in state where again?
Right over here. Roughly where this table is.
Right there by the bed, right there near the bed.
Have any good ghost stories? Yeah? What,
No,
you tell them quick? Or,
no one is allowed to stay here anymore, but there used to be that little Japanese woman you saw in the other picture. She was a caretaker here for 60 years. She lived upstairs. She took care of the place. Why it keeps in good shape. But she used to hear things.
What kind of things?
Noises.
Noises in the night, huh?
Yeah. And let you out this door, and I'll show you the path of the overlook.
Wonder if it...
And here we have some Grant memorabilia here. This is showing us the hard cigar smoking. Here he is planning his route across, victorious route across, victorious and bloody route across Virginia from Washington, D.C. Here's type of soldiers, Union soldiers that would have been with Grant, showing their artifacts here, showing some of the bloody days ahead. Here are Grant's southern opponents here. A lot of these generals were generals that were opposed to him. And here we have Johnny Reb here, showing his accoutrements, stripped for battle, as you can see, and well equipped to fight. Now here, this represents a type of battle that these were fighting from behind entrenchments. Now, they would always try to find a way to get around these entrenchments, try to attack on the flanks, but they were very unsuccessful. Usually by the time they got out there, the enemy was already well fortified, so when they thought they were going around the flanks, they were actually making head-on assaults. And as you can see here from this, these are single-shot firing, muzzle-loading, one-shot, but very accurate. We're using Napoleonic tactics with starting to use modern rifled weapons, so the casualty rates were really appalling during this. Here's well, we're going into the wilderness now with Ulysses Grant's campaign. Bring your own cigars and bring your own body bags, because you're going to need them. Here's video of, you can see some of the wagons are stuck, the ambulance wagons, part of Grant's Overland campaign, march to Richmond, which really which captured the Confederate Army, but almost cost the Union just thousands of casualties, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands possibly, considering the illnesses. You see the tents here, wagons. They're pulling a wagon out of the mud. Here's Ulysses Grant himself with his people in a conference here. Here's a hospital tent here with hospitalmen. Here we have, over this way, a sanitation commission under Clara Barton here. She's stopped to check. She's heard stories that about people not being well cared for as soldiers. Here's a burial pit here. Pan over here to an ambulance scene. Here, these are ambulances. Hospital tents here. By the time of the Grant's Overland campaign, it was all just basically entrenchments. Try to get your entrenchments up first, try to get the opponent to attack your entrenchments. And they called Robert E. Lee the King of Spades just for digging, and a lot of Union soldiers began to think, and Confederate soldiers just thought they were being used for like slave labor to build these trenches here. Here we have some Confederates building trenches, some cavalry off on a mission here. This shows how, just building entrenchments. Hundreds, literally scanning hundreds of miles of the Virginia countryside. Here we have the Battle of Cold Harbor here. Although the troops never got this close, the Union soldiers never got this close, they were repulsed relatively easy from a distance. But this just shows, and these entrenchments here were put up by the Confederates very fast. And when the order was given to march, to attack these entrenchments weren't here. And then by the time they got around to attacking them, they were here. So this was actually an attack on the flank that just turned out to be a frontal assault. Grant had the worst nightmares and everything else in regard to this assault here. He said it was his biggest mistake he ever made in his life, and it probably haunted him well into his grave. As you can just see, and you can see here there's an order being issued to halt the attack. The issue came too late. Grant's Overland campaign had the first use of black soldiers, as you can see here, an attack at the crater in Petersburg campaign. These are black soldiers here. And the Confederates showed no mercy, almost took no prisoners when it came to the black soldiers. But the blacks did very well in these battles, considered they were not led well by the Union officers that were supposed to lead them. Here's the Union leader here that's drilling these black soldiers here. You can just see the black soldier came of age in this war. Whereas before, the blacks were mainly used for porters or burial details, as you can see here. These are these burial pits littered Virginia everywhere, just all over the place. And blacks usually did this kind of dirty work and hauling water, trench construction, all kinds of manual labor like that. South used the blacks as well. But during the Petersburg campaign and some of the earlier campaigns, the blacks proved their merit. If you'll note here, a lot of them have like handkerchiefs over. They said the stench of these burial pits was so bad that they had to wear these the garments over their face to protect them from the stench and the disease. Give you a close up here. Once again, here a close-up of a field hospital here in the Civil War. Have some actual pictures I'm going to be showing here. These are ambulances here. Ambulances going one way, and they had to get off the road. Or no, they're on the road, and the artillery had to get off the road to let the ambulances go past. That's what this is here, and that's what's going on here. Like I said, a meeting of General Grant here, his troops. Here's video of some actual Civil War type wounds that I'll be showing here. Here's the young man here, is one leg shorter than the other one from bullet wounds. Double leg amputee here. These are face soldier being chloroformed so that getting ready for an operation. Another wagon here. Ambulance. Hospital complex outside Washington, D.C. for Union soldiers. This picture is not too well, but it just shows an infected spleen, or worse than any of the battle wounds. Almost more soldiers died of infection from bad water, typhoid, that disease was malaria, everything else. More soldiers died of this than actual bullet wounds or anything like that. Gun here creating the kind of wounds there, the big ball cartridges. Break the bones, and then with no antiseptic, just infection. Here's a bone broken by a cannonball, a leg bone. This is supposedly belonged to Dan Sickles. Photo of Dan Sickles here after the war, looking at that bone there with his missing leg there. He was a senator from New York. Supposedly a type of cannonball that did the damage to this Dan Sickles. Quick overview here of an emergency field hospital. The ambulances pulling in. The Overland campaign almost finished Lincoln's administration off because of the high casualty. Grant earned the nickname of the Butcher for the number of casualties. although he won, there were generals that were opposed to him, thinking that he could have done it, maybe having a lot less casualties and still beating the Confederacy. And that's a valid opinion from a lot of modern-day scholars and authors today. Here we just have a soldier being sent home in his box next to Grant here. And Grant was famous for his horsemanship. After the Civil War here are the line of presidents that all were Union generals or Union officers. And Grant, Rutherford B. Hayes, Garfield, who was also assassinated like Lincoln, Benjamin Harrison and McKinley, these were all, and coincidentally, they're all from Ohio, every one of these generals here. So, this concludes the tape on